come up and expect to talk about fixing tractors. Have sad news from my girlfriend, the tractor. Anyway, before we call this meeting, we have a chance for opening ceremonies. Kay is not going to make it tonight, and she's on the list. I'm gonna wing this, for better or worse, and the recent election gives me a chance to stop and think about things in a big picture. And you'll see on our agenda, we're pleased to have Casey Snyder here, our state representative. And I think about stuff at the federal level, and I think about stuff at the local level, and I think, why do people put up with us? Can you think of any other form of government that's more coercive, more in your face than local governments? We tell you how big your lot has to be, what your neighbor can do on their property that might affect you. We tell you how high your house can be, how much frontage you need, how many dogs you can have. Why do people put up with that? You can answer on your own.
How tall your weeds are.
How tall your weeds are, where you can park your car, it goes on and on. I think people put up with that is because we provide services to our residents that are more directly affect their way of life than any other form of government. We pick up trash, we provide water, we take sewer away, we plow streets, we build roads, maintain roads. And so I think people realize the services that local governments provides them. But most importantly, they know where we live. And they know, I hope they know that we are receptive to listening to their thoughts and hearing them. We may not always agree with the outcome, but we are available, and I thank the council and staff for fulfilling that side of local governance. With that, if you join me with the Pledge of Allegiance, appreciate it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for.
Thank you. With that, I'll call the November 6th, 2025 Nibley City Council meeting to order. And let's start with a quick roll call, if you would, Garrett.
Aaron Mansell,
Aaron Mann.
Nathan Remington, Norman Larson.
Larry Jacobson, I mentioned Kate won't be here tonight, and Norm has to step out for a minute, so we'll have barely a quorum. Nobody else has anything now, but anyway, I don't need to call you out. Staff, if you'd introduce.
Levi Robert, city planner.
Justin Long, city manager.
Cheryl.
Okay, thank you. Staff, Nick Kinska, our planning commission chair. Appreciate you being here, Nick. Okay, with that, let's move on to consider approval of minutes. And if you would also take a look at tonight's agenda, I'd appreciate it. Motions.
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second, a motion from Nathan, a second from Garrett to approve both. Any discussion on that, please? Seeing none, those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing no opposition, we'll have minutes approved and an agenda. Next is an opportunity for public comment. This is a chance for anyone who would like to address the council on any topic germane to Nibley City. Your chance to do that. Now, we have an important public hearing, two public hearings scheduled tonight. So if you're here to speak on either of those two public hearings, I invite you to address the council in that context, if you're able, instead of during this open mic part of our meeting. Nevertheless, if you have something you would like the council to hear, sometimes people sign up and they don't realize that we don't take attendance. So if you signed up, saying you'd like to speak, then come on up. And if you didn't sign up, you'd like to speak, come on up. Nathan, do you want to talk to us?
Thank you.
Then you're welcome to address us now. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, city staff, council members and mayor for the opportunity. And then tonight we'll have to depart for our public comment period on special service district and it's off. And it's in that light that I'd like to share my comments before I run the familial duties. They say the best time to plant a tree is yesterday and the second best time is today. The South Cache Valley Special Recreation Service District represents an opportunity to plant a figurative tree today. If approved and executed, it will doubtlessly take several years to come to fruition. My family will mostly be grown and likely will have little direct benefit from it. This, however, does not mean we will not indirectly benefit the added opportunity and services it will provide to those who come behind us. Please support the establishment of the Special Service District and plant that tree today.
Thank you, Nathan. Casey, you signed up. Do you want to address now or wait till? If it's okay with you, we have a discussion on the agenda with you and that's when we'll back you up against the wall. Anyone else like to address the council? One, go ahead.
I kind of signed up and
Kendall?
dropped off and didn't know where my name was supposed to be.
Okay. Introduce yourself, tell us where you live, you live with him, that's not specific enough.
Okay. I live on Colorado, Nibley. And I grew up in Arizona, that's the shirt. So, my comments are in this part of the South Cache Valley Recreation Special Service District. As parents, we always love it when our kids come and say, hey, you're doing a great job, Mom. How many times does your kids come and say that to you? Not very often, but I'm here to say that you guys are doing a great job and I appreciate the time and effort that the council and staff put in for Nibley citizens. I am also on the Parks and Rec committee and I get asked a lot, hey, when is indoor rec coming to the south end? I'm like, well, you come to meetings and you learn it's gonna take longer, but we're working on it. And I hope that this passes and that I can tell citizens that Nibley is on the way. We're getting there and we will keep jumping over those hurdles and going through those hoops to make it happen for our citizens, whatever that looks like. And so I want to thank you for that. And as Nate said, we have lots of children. We have 3 adults now and our youngest is 8. And the creation of this, again, will benefit others in the future. And I am willing to support that.
Thank you, Kendall, and I'm very sorry during introductions, I failed to call you out. This is what happens when I talk to people, I forget things. Kendall's not only on the Parks and Rec committee, Kendall is the chair of that committee, and you give a lot of service and a lot of time to that, as does the rest of your committee, so thank you. Okay, anyone else like to address the council? All right, with that, we'll close the public comment period and move to a planning commission report. Nick, is that you or is Levi going to handle it tonight?
I can do that.
Thank you, Nick.
Council, Nick Henska, Chairman of the Planning Commission. During the last Planning Commission meeting, we continued to discuss and have a workshop on the R2A open space subdivision. I think we got pretty close to giving Levi some more concrete direction on some of the adjustments and maybe recommendations on our side specific to the code in and of itself. We'll probably have one more meeting, hopefully full commission, to kind of finalize our recommendation there. Then we also had a workshop on some fencing standards, different things like that, coming up with different scenarios and ideas on heights and looking for uniformity where we can. So we had a workshop there, probably, I think we gave Levi some direction, and again, so probably the next meeting or two will come forward with application there. And also Levi did mention that we will have a general plan open house, I think this next week, which we're excited about, open to the public. Obviously, we welcome many members of the council and obviously the mayor to come and be a part of that. I think it'll be a great opportunity to interact with citizens of Nibley and give some direction with the consultants moving forward based on some feedback. So. You guys, anyone, council, Larry, have any question for planning commission at all?
No, thanks for your
Okay,
service.
thank you.
Okay, I'd like to introduce State Representative Casey Snyder. Casey, thank you so much for being here. Casey represents all of Nibley City and more. Nibley, Casey lives in Paradise. Lucky guy. I always wanted to go into Paradise. Yeah. And Casey, before we kick this off, there's no votes, there's nothing else, just an open forum, open discussion that if you're okay with it, maybe you can give us something to warm up on, and then if you'd allow the council to ask questions of you,
Yeah,
that'd be terrific.
no, I think that'd be great. Really appreciate it. Time to be here. I see there were 13, 14 items on the agenda, so you guys are gonna be busy tonight.
That's a short one.
That's terrible. There's a lot going on, and it's just. I think you all are making this an opportunity to speak, so maybe by way of background, just so I mentioned it, so I've been serving this area the last several years. I try in what capacity I can to hopefully represent as well, and in the summer, the early summer of this year, my colleagues selected me as the majority leader. So I've got some additional responsibilities, but hopefully, it's all done with the purview and lens of how can we do things in the best possible way for Cache County, which I love and support. There's a lot going on. I'll give you the sort of the nitty gritty what I think are the most pressing issues of the day. But after that, if I would, any question is on the table, right? Like you have people here in the audience that you have to answer to, and then it sort of filters down and your answers to them and to you. So I take that seriously. I'm totally willing to have that discussion. We are about 2 months and change into the next session, and it's, for me, it feels like it's already started. There's a lot of pretty spicy topics coming up. The Republican majority down there is sort of gravitating to a series of priorities and sort of the high level and nothing formal because we haven't voted on it yet. I see a discussion really around sort of been running issues, water, energy, housing, education. Those are going to be obviously topics of the next legislative session. They consistently come up. They clearly haven't been resolved, or wouldn't be hearing from constituents and then speaking about them again. On the budget side, we'll tell you, just as you're managing expectations for grants and opportunities. Right now, as of last look, we're about $500 million in the hole going into next legislative session. For those of you who are we at the end of the session balance budget, we're constitutionally required to do so. And then obviously the market bounces and things happen. A large portion of our imbalance right now that we'll be addressing as we first get into session is because of some changes in the big beautiful bill. That's what's largely driving it. We are seeing some noise in the economy, but from our vantage point, the biggest changes have been what we now have to cover because the federal government has withdrawn. And that's sort of put us into a deficit perspective. On the water side, I'm sure there'll be some larger discussion on this as we move forward. You know, I've, for better or worse, been sort of tasked with this area of policy. I was kind of the last man standing. A couple of water giants decided to retire and enjoy their lives from the legislature. So I was stuck with the issue. We have been building long-term into a plan, which I hope is very reminiscent of what UDOT looks like and the way we run roads. There's been a lot of politics around water and who gets split and who doesn't, and who has the lobbies and how much money we get. And we really tried to succinctly bring that into a better process. So now, as you all are applying for grants and such moving forward, there's going to be one clearinghouse, one agency or one board that brings all the water agencies together and has a discussion collectively about all the possibilities and prioritizes them. They also are going to move forward with the creation of a long-term plan, much like what we have with SIP with you, some of the other things that you're from columns. That's sort of the plan moving forward. There is going to be discussion next month around a potential water fee. So 2 years ago, I ran a bill that said we need to study this issue. We have the authorities to generate funds. Tell us, Utah, what are the project needs out there, and then give us a working group some of the suggestions on how to fund that. I will tell you that the need came back on a per annual basis of about $1.2 billion. That's the statewide need for water infrastructure. That is replacement and then growth under the current growth scenarios. The bulk of that, we believe, if the policy right, can be generated by local entities, about 800 million with the 1.1. There is a discussion going on, again, as at a discussion level, not a bill at this point, nothing finalized, of generating additional $300 million statewide, so that the state can aggregate funds and then supply all of that 300 million back in the form of grants to communities to sort of help you get over some humps, especially smaller communities. That's really a big driver for that. The other thing that I think is probably top of mind is the governor may not have mentioned zoning in a recent statement.
No, he did.
He did. To heard him, that's not the first time I've heard him say it. Just so that we're clear, and I am, unless sort of pushed in a different direction, I actually am opposed to what the governor's pushing, and there's holding him. He raised it, I just got back from trade machine, he raised it in there, was pretty specific about what he wanted to do, and I really still believe fundamentally there is a need for that local opinion, that local voice. I don't want Salt Lake deciding what to do in Nibley or in Paradise or anywhere in this valley. I think you all have these discussions. You have people that serve in volunteer capacities and staff that take future. I think the frustration is that we are unable to drive the cost of housing down in the state. Some of that's market factor. I think the blame is unfairly at this juncture placed on communities. I think a better discussion would be around entitled lots and what those options provide in terms of housing opportunities, or a more robust conversation about commercial owning of homes and second and third and fourth homes, and how the market addresses them from a taxing policy perspective. I think that has more or will have more of a influence on what the cost of housing is. But just so you know, that is what is driving that debate. The governor believes that if we're not building fast enough, we're not building enough, and that is where that's coming from. I don't necessarily see this. So with that, I would kind of open it up to any commissions, those being the issues that I think are probably talking about, but anything's fair game. So
Thank you, Casey. I should have asked, how much time do you have?
I will give you whatever you would like.
That's not a good answer.
2 minutes. 2 minutes.
If I go home, I'm just gonna move back.
Let's have a party. Nothing on TV anyway.
Yeah.
So I have a list of questions, but I'm gonna hold on because I bet the council will ask questions that I have. If not, I'll follow up. The council, I'll turn it to you. Questions for Casey? There.
Casey, good to see you. Yeah, the one zoning. And the governor feels like if we get rid of zoning housing, I don't think that's gonna make us build more homes. We might see a lot more sky rises and things like that. I agree with you. I don't also like making policy discussions for Cache County. And so I would definitely be opposed to that. And I don't know what the option is. I know some of us went to the part of the Nielsen Homes project in Weaver County. I think there's some other solutions that maybe could take place with that. In mandating maybe a percentage or something where we do something like that. It's one of the things I've discussions with local builders and different things. I mean, the surveys and everything we've gotten, most of those surveys, like majority, 86% of all people want a detached single family home with small private space. And they're not providing that. They're building townhouses and condos, and that's pretty much all they're doing. So I don't feel like they're even listening. And when I talked to a couple of the builders about that, it costs, another 10, 15,000 every time you separate a wall. But I think there's ways to do it. Obviously with market pressures and infrastructure and everything else being the cost that it is. I know they kept it low down there, but that was because it was a trade-off with the county and how they did that. It was gonna be unique. Maybe we can see some. You know, some teamwork in that maybe that maybe they can facilitate some of that. Maybe they're just mandating a zoning stand.
Well, and maybe to kind of explain a portion of the why. I think he has looked, and I won't speak for the governor, I can just maybe regurgitate what he said. I think he's looking at Texas as a model, which has fairly loose zoning requirements. And he's saying that's the fix. Now, there's other factors there, but that's what's driving it. And I don't necessarily agree with the cure that's being promoted. I think there will be some discussion, and I think this is the better direction to go, of moving from a stick approach to more of a carrot. And I think there is discussion of freeing up potential money around transportation dollars, B and C road funding as a component of the city complies or promotes housing. I think that's a better approach. But the other side of this is it's just there are things happening in the economy that maybe government can't control. Interest rates are high, material costs are high, land values are high. Some of this unfortunately is kind of.
And then, there's not to mention the number one issue with affordability is land cost. So you don't really fix that.
Can I follow up on housing real quick? Council, do you mind if I jump on here? So I mentioned thanks for coming, you guys. I mentioned in the opening ceremonies, how do we get away with this? And I would say we get away with it less and less these days. People are mad. And I think the number one issue that people are mad about is a resistance to change. And they moved to Nibley for open space and vacant fields next to them. And they're not happy when the city, I think in good faith, if we get the benefit of the doubt, tries to do our part in solving the housing crisis. Personally, I believe cities need to be a part of solving the housing crisis, but I don't believe at least the vocal part of Nibley residents feel they are a part of solving the housing crisis. 1 in 5 mayors in Cache Valley that were in a competitive race in the last election, 4 out of 5 lost. So I think that anger is being manifested. The one that won ran on a low impact, low development, no change kind of platform. Our own city council meet the candidates night from one candidate that all future housing in Nibley should be on a half acre. Another candidate said the state doesn't have the power to force Nibley to zone the way the state says it does. So people are upset, and I feel like we're caught in the middle at the local level. And you mentioned that. I'm not harping on you, Casey, by any means. But here's my question. Who's gonna solve the housing problem? Is it local governments? Is it the state? Who's gonna solve that? And then I might have a follow-up depending on how you answer.
Well, I don't think it will be either of us, honestly, if you want my, I think what will solve it is individuals deciding that they want to subdivide and develop their property in a way to promote that sort of option for people. I mean, at the end of the day, there won't be homes unless people decide to sell their ground and build houses on it. And the rest of this is sort of window dressing on the edges. Now we can push, which is where I think some of the pushes come from the state to say, well, if there's a plan to do X, you cannot restrict that private property right. I think that's fundamentally where the states come down. That's caused consternation because we're pushing at a macro level, there's 40,000 people, give or take. And you're having to implement it within a small community. That is the friction, and you eat all of that. We hear about it, but you live it. Again, outside of, I don't believe that it's a development problem. I do believe that, or a permitting problem. I do believe that there are enough entitled lots in this state to address the housing issue. For whatever reason, those properties have not moved to the next phase and gone to construction. That's the loans, or the interest rates and loans problem. That's maybe the cost of infrastructure, and those sorts of things. We can probably navigate that space, but I don't tell somebody decides to turn their, we're just kind of working.
Right, and I thank you for your empathy to see where we are. I mean,
We
I have-
contribute, and I'm sorry.
I think our unprecedented economic success has created the problem. We're the industry state, we're the beehive state, we build things, we're industrious, we're a beautiful place to live, we have natural resources, we have. It's a great thing, but it's our unprecedented success, not only our fertility rate, that has created the problem. And so I'm glad that you, have empathy for us. People ask me all the time, why don't you just say no? You cannot sell your farm, even though you're done farming and your kids don't want to farm. Just say no. Just tell them you declare a moratorium, and then I explain legally what a moratorium is and all that. But that's where we're at. We have property rights. Greg, thanks for being here. You're a trooper for coming every night. People think we have the control that I actually don't believe we have. And just one more thought on that, and I'll be quiet. If the state, and thank you for your, I think what you're saying is there's a partnership there. If the state does something to, let's say, help build infrastructure, because that's very expensive, whatever the state does, I hope you will form a strategy to make sure that taxpayer investment gets to the end of the road in terms of affordability. And we don't, based on a free market, supply and demand, supply is so far behind demand that taxpayer investment doesn't simply reward developers for developing. That somehow, and we can talk about techniques for that, techniques, but somehow that affordability actually gets to people that would like to buy a house.
Well, and those discussions are ongoing, and you've got, Stephen White in the House has historically run a lot of those bills. I think you're gonna see people like Representative Cal Roberts from Draper step into that role a little bit more too. I will tell you from our vantage point and my vantage point even, as we're navigating this, we do lean the league.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I would say that, there's been some consternation with us, and warranted or not, that's not really what I'm saying, but we will go to the league and say, what do you think? Help us get a deal, find a way forward. And there are very few bills in this space that I have seen move in without a lot of blood on the floor, without the league being in the middle of that discussion, and if not going neutral, approving. And so as you're trying to navigate that, I have 61 Republican members in my caucus, 14 Democrats. It's impossible for the opinions of every community they represent to get elevated within the nuance of a complicated bill that has wide implication. So we rely on organizations like LEAD. If there is real problems with a particular piece of legislation moving forward, I would encourage you to actively work with those league representatives. We really do listen to them. They've been historically very good partners.
Yeah, we're, for those that don't know, we've been active, the League of Cities and Towns, we're active participants in the Legislative Policy Committee, and thank you for working with the league. And the league advocates for local authority on zoning. And that's why people get mad at us, to be honest with you. Because on one hand, there's pressure to solve the problem, but on the other hand, it is in our ballpark. And Fifth Amendment to the Constitution, I'm taking away people's rights to have a farm. Anyway, I'll be quiet now. Turn it back to the council. And I see Nathan going, it's about time. Nathan,
Yeah, Casey, I think, to answer how you open, I think, in my opinion, you have represented us well. In your time in there, and I'm excited to see you as the majority leader to continue to do that. Similarly on the talking, as before, I'm just echo that I'd like to see the state take harder, more creative approaches, like you mentioned, right? Of first time home buyer type things, or changing the mortgage rates sometimes can be, I mean, who the buyer is, to encourage selling, not necessarily just developing. So yeah, I'd like to see them do that before they start superseding and some, so I appreciate you saying what you said. Um, and I think your work on the water is gonna be interesting and tough, and the budget as well, so I think you kind of approached the questions I had, so I just want to say thanks. I do think you represent us well, and hopefully you'll continue to do so, and if you ever need help from us, well, so.
Well, and I do need to put a shout out to Justin. He has represented you well. I probably talked to him more than any other city manager in the district, so. When you have concerns, I do know about them, so he does his job very well. Just make sure.
Eric?
Yeah, switching gears a little, you mentioned one of the things you think that's gonna be a big discussion is education as well. I'm wondering if you could just give us a really brief overview where your thoughts are the discussion's gonna happen about UFA scholarship and like funding of public schools versus other homeschool private school options.
It is going to be interesting. I will just kind of say that. And the reason I say that is obviously we are pushing for more choice. That's sort of where that originated and what the impetus behind that was. It is now being counterbalanced with a court ruling that says it may be unconstitutional. So I'm not sure exactly how that shapes out. I do know we're kind of watching how that unfolds. I will tell you there is some noise in the numbers that we're getting back. We are seeing significant participation in that program. Year over year, more people apply to that scholarship than actually are able to use it. That which is good, to a degree, but there's sort of two things that I think we need to be careful with. One is sort of a discussion around what is a private school. So you have online homeschool entities now sort of saying for a portion of what you would receive in scholarship will be a private school and will give you some of this money back. And it's skewing the data. It looks like there's a lot more private schools in the state than there actually are. And it's probably not putting me on the ground with students as much as it needs to. So we need to work through some of that. And there are some accounting issues with how that money is being spent. I do think we've tried to catch as much of the, I don't know, the best political way to say this, but people are doing the stupid crap and it's the state's money. So I think we need to do a better job auditing that. We had, when that first rolled out, we had people buying ski passes with state education money. And you're like, why? Well, we're teaching our kids how to ski. It's not really what education is about. So I think we need to navigate some of that. We're at a really interesting time outside of that. My kids actually, well, I have one kid that's not yet in public school, but my daughter who's here actually in Nibley Heritage. We don't have because of the dual immersion program. And I don't know what the answer is long-term to education in the state. I am worried that more and more we are seeing parents abdicate their responsibility. And because they're doing so, the schools are becoming more and more involved in things that have nothing to do with education. They're teaching kids how to be, how basic manners. Until we passed a bill a couple of years ago that said your kid can't come to school unless he's potty trained. We had teachers teaching kids how to go to the bathroom. And so I don't know how we fix that, but that's certainly something in education that keeps that I am worried about.
Yeah, looking at my neighbors around Nibley, I think there is a lot of that's happening. I do think there's at least in Nibley, there's a huge contingency of mothers who are homeschooling. I know just in my own neighborhood, so many women who are homeschooling. So it's almost like there's a division, like a diversion of approaches to the way that people are schooling, either saying schools will take care of it, or more and more saying, no, I'm gonna do this myself, because I don't want my kid being educated there. So anyway, there's a lot of strong opinions. I just want to get your take on that.
It is tough, like, maybe into that school, we had some problems with education with one of the kids, we tried to go half day in school, just to try it. I'm surprised my wife and my daughter still love each other. My daughter is school. Full time. I am so very sympathetic of how the system works. I don't fix it though, too, when I don't feel like I'm that old, but, when I grew up, the school was the center of the community and everybody wanted their kids in school and they cared about how the sports teams did. And I think what public education provides is the opportunity for kids of varying socioeconomic status and varying backgrounds to sort of mix and see each other and have an experience and bring the community together. What's happening because of some of the other issues is that schools are becoming some of the most divisive places in our public sphere. And I don't think we fix that. I think that's why you're in homeschool.
But on some level, I think that UFA scholarship helps to minimize those divisions, like kids from any socioeconomic level can all go to school together in a private school. Because they can afford it.
What we have to watch, I think, long term is that the kids whose parents may not be involved in their lives are not the only kids that end up in public school.
Yeah, for sure.
That is the rub. I don't know.
There. Yeah, when the school thing went on, I just graduated, maybe the second year of teaching, fifth grade. It's not safe. Yeah, it's bad. Where she's at, the Title I school and I was there. Yeah, me families. The only other question I had was, what is the plan, where is there a plan going forward with to the legislature and the courts or the regional maps? Which maybe I should bring that one. It's curious. This whole thing.
Well, I want to. So there are those of us in the legislature who feel very strongly that the court has overstepped its bounds. And the Constitution is very clear that only the legislature has the power to draw maps. And in the current ruling, our Constitution is also clear that how constitutional amendments are made. And for whatever reason, the court has determined that a proposition, despite not having approval from the legislature, 2/3, which is our requirement, or any other constitutional amendment, now by a very slim majority of popular vote has the same weight as a constitutional amendment because it's overriding constitutional law. That's our dispute. That's a part of our dispute. We have obviously petitioned the court at every level and disputed up to the Supreme Court, who remanded us back to where we were now with the current judge. The judge, I think there's also concern that the judge has set herself up for a position of failure. Maybe that's the right way to say it. There's this, we have complied, however begrudgingly, with her order to redraw maps. At the same time she's asked us to do that, she has also allowed plaintiffs in a case who have had no public participation and have not gone through the process that we have done now for a certain time, the opportunity to present their own maps, at which point she's indicated that she's going to pick, which again feels pretty outside the bounds of what the Constitution says. That's the conflict. Now, what I hope, what I think is going to happen is next week on, I think, the 10th, the judge is going to make a ruling on this. My hope is that she will select our begrudgingly new front maps. And that would be what is in place for the new election cycle. If she does that, what will happen is
we will continue to sue. And the courts will decide this whole separation of powers issue. We'll go back to the state Supreme Court, where we don't know how that's gonna go, but we've already sort of signaled that we're looking for the federal Supreme Court to make a ruling on legislative versus judicial. That's what I hope happens, like, everybody knows how little ground data plaintiffs in the case were mad that they didn't get chosen, and we're mad that we had to do a thing that we didn't want to do in the court at this time. If the other option happens where she does not select the map that we redrew, I think you should buy one, because it's going to get interesting. I think we will take extraordinary measures.
We feel like the courts have overstepped in a number of cases. And the plan was to go forward,
Yeah.
because the Constitution is pretty clear on that.
I generally don't like to throw one branch under the bus. I do feel like this court has made serious decisions that's been frustrating from at least my perspective. This is sort of the front. You're gonna hear me actually next month that the court made what I believe is one of the most asinine rulings that I've ever seen, and said that our first responders in this state are only covered by government immunity in the event of a natural disaster. So if you have a heart attack right now in Nibley City, and you're served by Hiram, right? If Hiram goes out and responds, and they are not covered by government immunity if they mess up, even no matter what, they're not covered. Unless you have a heart attack during an earthquake, under which time it's an emergency and you're covered by government. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen, and it's 50 years of precedent, and like they're having an academic exercise with people's lives. So you're gonna see us from Bill, but I'm gonna be talking about one at the same time. Emergency in our code means natural disasters and everything else that everybody believes is an emergency, including basic medical problems and heart attacks and all. So you're gonna see some conflict between us and the judicial branch. Session, the governor's already signaled that he wants to add 2 additional justices to the court. So that'll bring us up to 7, which is consistent with the federal courts and most of the states of our size. That'll be contentious. We'll probably add additional justices at the appellate level. It's being discussed right now, and we will probably create a constitutional special court so that constitutional questions can go to a panel that can specifically discuss constitution. It's gonna be. But I am very biased on this. The legislative branch is the best branch of government, and this is the best body in England. Like the Senate is old and boring, the governor is out, the judges are elitist. The House is where it's at. But I am speaking my bias. This tension that we have is actually a good thing. If you really back it out, the worst thing that could happen is us deciding everything to the governor or the courts. So this is an intentional program.
With all this that you're doing, I think you now look like you've aged.
I had no gray hair. And
This is this picture 5 years ago.
if you look at my pictures when I came in 7 sessions ago, I looked young, I looked like I believed that the world is a happy place, and it was idealistic. I don't know what you see now, but that's not what I see.
I'm gonna ask one that I think is short and allow you a very short answer. When I think of taxes, I believe nearly every tax has inflationary pressures built into the taxing strategy, sales tax, income tax. If there's inflationary pressures, the rates stay the same and the number of dollars collected goes up. Because cities have to deal with governments, have to deal with inflationary pressure as well. There's one notable, there's one notable difference in that, and that is property tax. And in order for Nibley City to try to keep up with inflationary pressures, we have to go through a very onerous process called truth in taxation. And if we don't want to go through that process, we actually have to take a cut in the tax rate if there is increased value of property. So are you interested in building an inflationary measure into property tax without going through truth in taxation?
I don't know what the appetite generally would be. There's probably a window to have the discussion, because I will tell you, we are feeling significant pushback. From our constituents, because some entities have waited and not done any sort of incremental increases and then done huge swings. So the school district here did that. There's been communities across the coast that are up and down school districts did that. And I appreciate why they did that, because they didn't raise taxes year over year. That's a hard thing to do. But when you have someone that sees a tax bill and they open it up and it says my taxes went up 30% 1 year, it kind of gets people busted. So I know there's a discussion about a cap on how much you can raise in a given year. And if you're gonna have a discussion about how much you're gonna allow in any one particular year, you should probably have a discussion about what you do with inflation, relative to inflation. I'm not saying that the viability of getting around truth and taxation is real. I will say there are some people that consider that religion on Capitol Hill. But if you're gonna have a discussion, the only place that I think you could have it is within a conversation that says, okay, you can't increase more than 10-15% here. It's because there's been so much consternation.
Which might encourage local government, school districts to keep up with inflation and go through the process more often instead of just wait until it's so important.
And I will say too, like we pushed back on some of the districts and some of the entities on the big property taxes, mostly because we were feeling sort of the pressure from our constituents. They probably got more emails on Cache County School District's property increase than I've seen on anything in a long time. We kind of saw us, trying to navigate that space. We were encouraging maybe in line of tight rules. The legislature has requested the governor, as he's bringing his budget for next year, to look at a 5% across the board cut. So we are trying not to be hypocrites. We're saying you should probably look at reductions in spending. We're looking at reductions in activities.
Thank you. Anything else, staff? Questions you want to ask at this point, or you just meet in smoke-filled rooms and figure it all out?
I think you've already hit on everything I've
Okay.
had interest in.
And I would say I would be interested in doing this more often. I think we can.
Oh, yeah.
All of us. You guys have.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's fantastic. You, as mentioned, you do a fantastic job of representing SKC. Thank you. You're open, you're available to us. We know where you live. Not too many people now. And I wanna say especially thank you for help drilling a new well. So Casey helped with a grant to help us drill a new well to keep up with things here in Nibley. And so really appreciate your service.
Yeah, let's do this again. It's good.
Excellent. Thanks. Be safe. Okay. Next, we have a public hearing. This is an important public hearing. They're all important. This one's especially important because there's a lot of steps involved legally to create a special service district. And so this public hearing is a notice of intent to establish a South Cache Valley Recreation Special Service District. And before we open the public hearing, I see Eric. Thank you very much. Eric is Nibley City's attorney. And I'm not sure, Justin, do you want to give an intro to this?
Yeah, we'll give a quick brief intro and then Eric can correct me for all the mistakes I make.
Eric, can you hear us okay?
Yes,
Okay, thanks for joining us tonight.
you bet.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome, Eric. So I'll just give a quick brief background for those in attendance tonight. You are aware that back in August, you passed a resolution that started the process to create a South Cache Recreation District. Currently, this district would consist of Nibley city limits, and it would create an entity or create a framework in which we would invite other municipalities around us to be able to join and try to construct some sort of recreation facility. So there's no definitive plan on what that rec facility is yet. There's not a location, there's not a size, there's not a cost, there's not anything to that. Other than what we're trying to do is set the foundation of the framework to have people join us so that we can have this conversation and answer some of those questions. And at some point in the future, be able to take a plan to the citizens to vote on whether or not they would like to be taxed for constructing the planned recreation facility. So we're really just trying to lay the groundwork here. We're trying to get people involved, trying to get the word out there. We have had some discussions with other municipalities. We've been to Wellsville City Council. We've had discussions with talking to Hiram. And really what we're trying to do is create this framework so they can join us. If nobody joins us, then the special district means nothing. We don't need a special district to use Nibley City tax money to be able to construct anything in Nibley City. So it's a little bit of, again, just trying to set up the framework and allow it to happen. And so what we did is last August, we started this process. We passed a resolution. That resolution started a time clock that needed to expire, as well as certain very specific public notification requirements that needed to happen in order to take this step we're trying to take tonight, which is a public hearing. So tonight, the public has the opportunity to be able to speak to you about their thoughts on creating this recreation district. And then this is where it gets a little fuzzy for me, and I may have to have Eric jump in. Then they have a certain amount of time to be able to file protests. And if a certain number of protests are filed, then the establishment of the district is just not possible. If that threshold is not met, then the council will be able to decide at a later date in a later meeting whether or not to officially stamp and create the district. Is that correct, Eric?
Yes, tonight is just a public hearing. People can have already filed a objection to the proposed district, and they have another 60 days to do that. At the end of 60 days, then we'll see what has been received and see if it's still in the discretion of the city council to move forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. I just probably emphasize the involvement of the public in direct votes through a referendum on this. So if the district is created in order to have taxing authority, the people have to give that district taxing authority. In addition, and even if it's just Nibley City, if Nibley City or the district wish to borrow money against the faith and credit of the citizens of Nibley, that's another vote of the citizens to allow the borrowing of money. Unless I have it wrong, Eric, if I'm wrong, then help me out.
Yeah, let me try and say that in a way that I hope will be clear. The creation of the district does not grant the district any taxing authority. The district has to be created, and only after it is created can then the question be presented to the citizens of whether to grant the district taxing authority.
Perfect. Thank you for helping. Okay, questions from council before we open the public hearing for clarification? All right, then yeah, please.
So this is not on our agenda for us to discuss, other than outside the hearing. Do we plan to answer questions and things like that that citizens have today, or just hear what they have to say?
There's no votes taken for sure. I believe in public hearings where we have an attorney here to help us, we're allowed to try to provide information. But probably stay away from policy discussions. Certainly won't take any votes. We've already taken the vote that launched the public hearing, so then we wait 60 days and see what else happens.
Okay, just want to make sure that's.
And Eric, if you're able and willing, if people have questions and you have information for them, I would love it if you would be able to chime in as well.
Be happy to.
Thank you. Thanks, Nathan. Okay, with that, let's open the public hearing. If you wish to address the council on creation of South Cache Recreation District, please let us know. Tell us your name, if you would, and where you live.
My name is Maria Smith. I live in Nibley, near Andover. I am in favor of creating a special service district, because I think that the area which the recreation center will serve will involve more than just Nibley City, and so I think it's really important that we try to collaborate with other cities on this. My question is, what is the time frame that we have to, have other municipalities collaborate with us? Like, is there a deadline? There has to be a deadline, I assume, for municipalities to join the special service district.
And you can stay there if you want. Eric, can you cover that question for us, please, if you heard it?
Sure, there isn't a, a statutory deadline for others to join, but as a realistic matter, we have to hear from them within probably the next 6 to 8 months, so that we can then make plans of, who all is in the boat, and, what will that recreation district end up doing based on who joins.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Maria. Who else? There's a couple of names here. I'm not sure if you meant to sign in because you're here or you wish to speak. Nathan Ball. Can't read the rest.
Nathan Ballston. I am here, but not to speak on.
Okay, thank you for coming regardless.
Sure.
Okay, Lance Anderson.
Different.
Different circus, different set of monkeys. Okay. Well, I know where you live now. Oh, you didn't put the address down. That's our thing. Okay, anyone else wish to address the council? I live in God. We're not an exclusive club. In fact, we would
Love for you.
one of these days. I'd like to talk to you about being part of a special service district. Oh, wait, that's a policy discussion. Hold on. I'm sorry. I didn't. Anyway, let's hear.
What other cities?
So tell us your name. The mic and your
Ballston, Providence. And I too have heard rumors about the special district for a recreation center. When I thought it was gonna be in Millville, not that it matters to me where it is. Are you in discussion with these other cities, Millville, Providence? About this recreation center?
Yeah, I'll try to answer that. We've engaged with Providence, Millville, Hiram, Wellsville, Paradise. And in fact, we will be at we've surveyed these towns as part of feasibility study that Nibley funded. We'll be in Hiram on an upcoming city council meeting, and we will be in Wellsville at one of their upcoming city council meetings. Those two have shown the most interest in taking a next step with us.
Okay. I personally am in favor, but I'm just one person. Thanks.
Thank you.
Letting your local elected officials know that would be great.
I'm sure they'll.
Anyone else? Okay, oh, please, yeah, thank you. And another member of our Parks and Rec committee, I'm sorry, again, I'm slow to.
Okay, my name is Caitlin Matson, I also live in Nibley. And yeah, like the mayor said, I'm on Parks and Rec, and indoor rec is kind of what spurred me to join and be on the Parks and Rec committee. And just as being part of this process and seeing kind of the background of it, it's been really interesting. And knowing that this special service district, if I feel like realistically, if we want to do a rec center and to do our community right with doing a rec center, a special service district is what needs to happen next. I think if Nibley moves forward and does their own rec center, other people in other communities are gonna come, and we will already have outgrown it by the time we open our doors. And so I think if we could get with the other surrounding communities, ideally, have them join the special service district as well. Then that gives us, just more opportunities and, more to work with, for an indoor rec space. And I think Nibley has done a great job with kind of leading the way, and I think we just are gonna have to keep doing that. And so by us taking the first step, hopefully that will encourage other communities to join as well. So yeah, I'm definitely in favor of moving forward with the special service district. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. Anyone else care to address the council? Going once, twice, 3 times. Thank you for coming tonight. Thanks for speaking up. You can always approach your elected representatives anytime on any issue, but it was an important step for us to hold this public hearing to allow voices against forming the special service district to be heard, especially heard. Okay. With that, we'll close the public hearing and move to our next agenda item.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, Eric. Yep. Okay, it's okay to straight on. Okay. Next, we have a discussion and consideration ordinance 2531. This is amending parking regulations for non-motorized vehicles. We've talked about this once. This is the second time.
Yeah, so I was just planning on giving you an update of what has been changed since the first reading. And then Councilmember Lowerson did send some suggested changes, so I'll put those up on the screen as well for discussion. So what's in the meeting packet in Teams reflects these changes. So this first one, the updated draft removes the restriction for parking inoperable vehicles in public rights of way. There was some discussion in the last city council meeting about this. You know, if somebody breaks down, is it really reasonable to ticket them? And we just felt, as you know, that was a good point, and from staff's opinion, that we would just remove that provision of the ordinance of restricting parking for inoperable vehicles. They would still be subject to 48-hour parking limitation, as you know, which is already baked into the ordinance. And then this next one is just clarifying language added for non-motorized equipment, just so it's a little bit more clear about what we mean by that, providing some examples. So those are the only things that have changed in this draft. And you know, staff's recommendation is approval with these changes. Nonetheless, I'll put up on the screen what Councilmember Lowerson sent before this meeting, and I don't know if you just wanted to talk about that, Nate, and explain that. We can discuss.
I think for the benefit of just review, if you could bring slides specific to this one, the pictures that were taken of the trailers and things. So my basis was, as we kind of scroll through these, it felt like after our discussion at the first reading, it was aligned to safety and being visible, especially in the next picture. And our code enforcement officer had mentioned a couple of youth and people on like e-scooters having collisions with these types of equipment. And so I started just kind of thinking, I think it's more based on visibility. And so the proposed language that I have just took what staff had suggested, but kind of put in some time, place, manner type restrictions of mostly just being you can't see. So whether that's a storm or at night, I just felt like we were going a little too far and saying you can't park a trailer on the what you're doing at any time, and it can be impounded immediately. I think trying to balance that impound stuff. So that's where this language came from. So trying to balance some of those things we talked about last time. I don't think it's
a good discussion point for. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
And we can come back to that when we turn to this council. Yeah,
Yeah, along those same lines, when I was reading this. In three, it mentions they have 48 hours. And I'm looking in section C, number 3, where it called it. With the changes. 3 mentions they have 48 hours, and then 4 and 5 say it's not allowed and it's immediate impoundment. It sounded like, I read that, it feels like a contradiction. I feel like there's trying to be a way to clarify that it's not allowed, but it is allowed, you know, for 48 hours.
So
Like Nathan's language helps address the problem, but
yeah, maybe I can clarify. So 3 applies to any vehicle. You can't park any vehicle on the street for longer than 48 hours at a time. But on top of that, non-motorized equipment is prohibited at all times, and so is unregistered vehicles. So that time limit really expands to everyone, but 4 and 5 are specific to specific vehicles or equipment. If it's unregistered, you can't park it if it's uncoupled, or if it's unregistered. If an unregistered vehicle is not coupled to a registered vehicle, you can't leave it on the street. Or if it's equipment, you couldn't leave that on the street either. So do you see the kind of and this has been reviewed by our attorney. I think he added a few clarifying things in this version, but it very minimal as well.
okay, I think we're getting into the discussion. That's great. So I'm gonna turn it over to the council and invite you to continue to participate.
Okay.
yeah, I just. You know, in the scenario we talked about in the last meeting, you know, I brought a little gravel in my trailer and I was unloading that, and then for whatever reason I had to unhook that to run to the store to get something else, leaving that trailer in the street. I mean, I feel like, especially during the day, I mean, really, is that really subject to a fine or a ticket? Or, I mean, it's going to be moved, you know, before the evening hours. Hopefully gonna have the project be done. I just feel like it creates a limitation. It might be too much for me. Which is. Because the nighttime, I think Nate makes a good point on that, because I mean, the visibility we talked about, there's been accidents. Everyone's to the trailer itself at night because it was black and there's no street lights on that street. And I mean, luckily we saw it on time, but it definitely is an issue. And I think maybe that's the focus should be the visibility of it and the hazard that creates in the evening.
Yeah, I will mention that we have heard complaints beyond just nighttime, that if there's equipment or a trailer, you know, small trailer in the street, that it's difficult for people to see. They're backing out of their driveway and it's just all of a sudden there. So I do think it's heightened safety issue during night, but I do think some in the community have expressed that it's just it being there, sitting there is a safety issue. So.
Initial project, I just felt like if you're working on your yard, for the reason I just said, you go to the store to get something else, you come back.
So yeah, so that's how it is now. But again, another reason for this is enforceability. We can't enforce for something that's unlicensed in the road. We don't know who it belongs to. Like, there's no way the city can enforce that. We sometimes try to make an assumption. We'll go knock on the door and ask them if it's their trailer, but just because it's in front of someone's house doesn't mean it's their vehicle or their equipment. So that's the difficult thing when we're talking about public streets is if you put something there, it could be anyone's. It's not on their property. We also enforce, nuisance, and it always goes back to the property owner. If there's something they're doing that's against code, then we enforce the property owner. If it's on a public street, we can't enforce it. So the enforceability is an issue. So if we have a time limit, I suppose we could let's say we just did the 48-hour limit. I suppose we could impound it after 48 hours. That is an option. But that's part of the reason it is this way is because we can't track it the same way as we could if it were a licensed vehicle. We don't know whose it is. We can't ticket them. All we can do is impound it. So, but if you want to go the direction of waiting 48 hours or only enforcing it at night, such as Councilmember Lowerson suggests, that I mean we're all ears to that. This is we'll do whatever you feel is appropriate for sure.
City agent is constantly trying to punish people. They're trying to put a humor in or keep a project. It takes a day or maybe 2 days to get it out of the road and stuff. Usually don't think they should be punished for that. So I'm just trying to figure out how to do the code enforcement for the sake of everybody, so we don't create hazards and safety issues, and also allow some flexibility to get your stuff done.
Yeah, so I think to get to a point that we need to get to, an amendment would be appropriate. And I don't know, you don't have to have one to offer, or maybe Nathan's got a remedy. I'm not sure either one, but eventually we have to.
I don't wordsmith this from the bench.
And I don't think we should wordsmith it from the bench. I think we need to have a specific amendment, and if we need to go away and think about it for till the next meeting, that's fine too. Nathan.
Yeah, I'll just get a motion, Mayor, to continue. I'd still like to have some discussion. Done.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue this item
To the next meeting.
to the next meeting. Okay, thanks. So that's a debatable motion. I entertain discussion on it. I think one of the things that would help is you brought up some concerns, and I certainly appreciate those. Do we have more information for staff to gather before we get through the next meeting? Maybe.
Yes, I'll point out a few things that I think not just staff, but all of us need to do before next time. In 11.02.04B, it specifically talks about parking provisions in addition to parking provisions contained in the Utah State Code. And this is more of a clarification, or maybe even a question for the lawyers. Some of our laws feel redundant to what's in that code. But it may be because they're referencing highways rather than our streets. And so some clarity on what certain rules us as a city have to have that are similar to theirs, and whether or not just referring to state code will be enough for a code enforcement, et cetera. So I guess that's the question is, where does state law stop and city ordinance have to step in on certain roads, et cetera?
Yeah, and I always struggle with this when suggesting code, whether we should be redundant with state code or whether we should just reference it. I will say that I'm pretty certain, I'm not an attorney, but I'm almost 100% certain that there is a provision in Utah code for parking, some parking restrictions that do apply to all public streets, not just highways. And I mean, the bike lane, the one that just passed this last legislative session, it applies to all bike lanes, not just UDOT roads. So, I think we could do that. I sometimes I do think it is helpful to be redundant with state code. And if the state changes it and let's say they don't want to regulate some of these things, maybe the city still does. So maybe we keep it in there.
Yeah, I think it's, you should get clarification.
Yeah.
In fact, the phrase, in addition to Utah State Code as adopted by the city, it's like, well, is it only in effect because we adopted state code, or is it in effect just because it's state code?
Yeah, that is kind of a weird phrase, but yeah.
Maybe ask legislative attorney on that.
So similarly connected to that, in the definitions that you worked on, which I think is was a big improvement of lawfully operated. Still a little too vague for me. And again, I think there's opportunity to defer to some state traffic code definitions here that I think we as a group or a committee or something could figure out. But I think the answer to that first question I proposed might help with that one.
Okay.
Another suggestion is 11.02.04 C1. It talks about I would suggest that we just remove the phrase two or more right. Reason being is that the language above talks about the parking along streets should be parallel and should be in the direction of traffic unless it's a one-way street. And so I don't think we need to define two wheels or more, or that it's even the right wheels, because even like a motorcycle still has to park parallel on the street, so far from the curb. So just clarity of language really is my suggestion, is to remove two or more right. And it just says the wheels of the vehicle are within 12 inches. Does that make sense? I
think, yeah, I think the reason for that is the attorney actually added the or more. I think it's just to say that all of the right wheels, maybe there's a better way to say it, need to be 12 inches within the curb, not one wheel.
All wheels on one side of the vehicle.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah, but then there might be a better way to say it, but.
I'll pick up with rear duals.
Yeah, they added two, they said two or they suggested that Joel, our attorney, suggested to add or more because said, well, there's some vehicles that have more than two wheels on the right side, so.
Yeah. Seems like it's just saying all the right wheels have to be, no matter how many there are. Except the motorcycle doesn't have right and left. Okay, see how we got here.
And then just the one, the language that I suggested was the other one. So that would be my marching orders between now and next week for all of us.
And you sent that, I didn't check my emails this afternoon, I was out in the field. Did you send that to Levi? Or all this?
Levi, and Ryan copied the council.
Okay.
To avoid.
And I believe since it's been presented in a public meeting, that it's right for you to admit that you sent that to all of us. We won't call 911. So, okay, thank you, Nathan. Other discussion on the motion to continue until the December meeting? Okay, those in favor of the motion to continue, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll take it up again. We'll work on that and take it up again. Thank you, Levi. Thank you, council. Let's press right on into resolution 25 35, this is city council meeting schedule. Yippee, yippee, yippee. For 2026. Cheryl, are you gonna do this for us, please?
I believe so.
Thank you.
Hopefully this is the right link. Maybe not.
I'm for that. Sure.
Is it this one? 9-2?
So this is the meeting schedule for 2026. There are a few meetings that coincided with conferences as per usual and with Cache County School District events. I wanted to point out particularly that on April 30th, sequentially, there should have been a meeting on April 30th, but we skipped and put 2 meetings in May to facilitate discussion of the budget because we have a budget passed to July 1st. There are other workarounds for the Utah League of Cities and Towns, which of course the council is also invited to go to. I'm just a reminder that this is the council's decision and this is what's being presented to you, but you have every right and option to propose other meetings or you can also ask for special meetings during the year just by approaching Mayor Jacobson. That's all I have to add.
Okay. Thank you, Cheryl. This is available to you for first reading unless you choose to waive second reading. And it's a responsibility of ours to publish our anticipated schedule. So that's why we're doing this. Go ahead.
If I can add, we are anticipating municipal elections next year, so there shouldn't be any additional meetings such as we'll talk about at the end of this meeting. So we also look forward to that next year.
Right, but I mean, we can get this, if we want to do a second reading, we can do a second reading in December.
Absolutely.
Nathan?
I'll give a motion to approve and waive second reading.
Okay, there's a motion and a second, a motion from Nathan, second from Aaron to approve the schedule as Cheryl presented and waive the second reading. So we end up with, I'm sensitive because I'm the guy responsible for feeling like a good cadence is about every 3 weeks we have a meeting. Wrap up from the last meeting, prepare for the next meeting, and then council has a chance to review the information packet. So that's kind of the 3-week cadence. We're at about 3.5 weeks on average, 52 weeks per year. And however many meetings that was, I already counted them 15. So if you're comfortable with that, I just pointed out the math. It's up to you. And we could, as Cheryl said, we can always add to the schedule. Any discussion? Okay. Anyone, I'm gonna go ahead, Nick, you haven't been canvassed yet, but you are, as according to Cache County, a successful representative for city council, so I think you are a successful candidate for city council, so you okay with this?
I'm doing me.
Okay. I'd ask the other successful candidate if they were here, maybe they're online or not, but no objection to voting? Seeing none, shall we call the roll for us, please?
Councilmember Lowerson, what did you vote?
In favor.
Councilmember Mann? In favor. Councilmember Menzel?
In favor.
Thank you.
3 in favor, none opposed, that achieves the required quorum. Pass, thank you very much. All right, let's move right to a public hearing on 25.
Do I suggest a quick recess?
Yeah, I thought I gave you that opportunity.
I want it down.
If there's no objection, we'll recess until 8 o'clock. Seeing no objection.
I think like 7:56.
Oh, that's faster. And
I've got 7.
that's
We've never had shorter than minutes. It's never actually happened.
city council meeting. And the next item on our agenda is a public hearing. This is a chance for public to weigh in on our weed, grass, and brush height restrictions. So Levi, you probably have information for us. Is that correct?
Yes, so yeah, just as some background, and this was discussed a bit in a workshop in the last meeting. But so Cache County Vegetation Management, they do really good job enforcing noxious weeds and the presence of noxious weeds, and eradicating them, make sure they don't spread. We have, but they're not necessarily concerned with height of weeds, and they're not concerned with non-noxious weeds. So if they're not on the list, then they're not going to eradicate them. We have another provision in our code on that speaks to the height of weeds, grass, or brush, and it's proved to be very vague, very difficult to enforce. And so what's in front of you feel like is kind of a balanced ordinance focused on health and safety of issues related to weed height. And what we're proposing is that in general, the height of weeds, grass or brush is limited to 12 inches, with some exceptions for agricultural production, natural growth, recreation areas such as Firefly Park. But in addition, in these areas, the limitation of 12 inches would apply if it's within 5 feet of a public road, trail, or structure. This is partly to, in the case of a structure, to for fire safety issues, and then a road trail, it has more to do with visibility and with and just with not obstructing the road or trail with any overgrowth that might be happening there. So that is what is in this code. And then we've also included a reference to the Wildland Urban Interface Code for defensible space for affected areas. And there's a map that speaks to what this is. And I was interested to see that it overlaps almost exactly with the restriction we have for fireworks, and basically east of SR 165. So in those areas, the Wildland Urban Interface Code for defensible space, it goes into detail, but it's actually more restrictive than what we have here, with keeping weeds and grass to a limit when they're within close proximity to structures. And it depends on, there's a lot of nuances there, and to kind of Nate's point of whether we should put this in the code or just reference the code, there's a lot of nuances with it, and it speaks to the map and the zones that you're in, because it's more restrictive in certain areas than in others. And so we just felt like there's a good code in place, and we can reference that. And then we also wanted to add some clarity to remove cut weeds within 24 hours. It does say within our code that you need to remove them, but how long do we need to wait? And we just wanted to make that more enforceable, that it needs to be done within 24 hours. These were the questions that we kind of posed in the last meeting. What's the purpose of the ordinance? The beautification, fire safety, these other things and in general, the city council expressed focusing on health and safety issues. How high is too high? We are recommending 12 inches as just the bare minimum to avoid the fire safety issues. A lot of cities are more restrictive than that, 6 inches, some are 4 inches. We felt like really 12 inches, there's not going to be a ton of cases, but it gets at the ones that, really are overgrown. And then again, this kind of what should be the exemption for agricultural production. These areas where it's close to the roadway, those are often the areas that you see a lot of the overgrowth because they're not cultivating that area. And so that's become, we feel like, an issue with visibility and potential, fire safety issues. So just keeping that buffer there is what we're suggesting. I feel like this ordinance, a big objective of staff is to make the ordinance more enforceable. It's not every time we get a complaint or we come upon a place, we have to exercise a ton of discretion of, oh, is this harboring insects or rodents? I don't know. Let me get a magnifying glass and see if I see any colonies in here. I mean, that's kind of how it's written now. We want to be more objective than that. So, but definitely open to changes, discussion on these. We understand there's pros and cons to these, setting these lines in the sand. So that's what we've come up with. I can bring up the specific language, but that's just a kind of a summary of it.
Thanks, Levi. Questions from the council for Levi before we open the public hearing?
Yeah, quick question on B2 that talks about, or no, sorry, B1 that talks about natural growth such as Firefly Park, except within 5 feet, structure, sidewalk, trail, or public roadway. Does that also include the fences? Like the outside edge of Firefly Park? Do we cut down the weeds? I know that a couple times a year, Raj and his crew will go and like knock down weeds like along those sidewalks or different areas. But are we trying to also knock down the weeds like the fence or the tall grasses that go along the fence on the south side of the park?
Yeah, I think the way this is currently written, it's only if it's along a trail or road or a structure. I don't think a fence would apply, but we could add that if you think. Yeah. Yeah.
It's more concerned like it's someone who's getting lots of snakes in their yard, stuff that well. It's the tall grass and hard rain snakes. I think that's something. That sounds pretty good.
It is.
Yeah.
From the fence and. Yeah. Okay, and so that would be a good thing to talk about after, when we turn it to the council. All right, with that, then I will invite the public to tell us what they think about these changes, proposed changes to weed control. I'll open the public hearing. Please, thank you.
I just have a question. We have a ditch that runs on the other side of our fence, and the weeds are always high. So what about the ditches as far as the maintaining of those?
It's a good question. I don't know if it probably just depends on if it's an area where there's agricultural production and it also depends if it's close to a roadway. So if the ditch is along the roadway, at least the way it's written now, within 5 feet of that, you would need to keep it under 12 inches. But if there's not a roadway or a trail or a structure, and it's also kind of an agricultural area, it may not apply. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one big finding favors and having them.
It seems like the way this is drafted, it doesn't apply to ditches or fences apparently, right? Like,
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of little situations we run into. Well, what about that? But we're trying to at least draw a line in the sand to say this is where it does apply. This is where there's an exception.
other. Nothing from property rights? Come on, man. We depend on you. You come every night.
We're good.
Thanks for coming. Okay, then with that, I'll close the public hearing and turn this item to the council for discussion and consideration. Again, it's our first reading. Doesn't mean you couldn't waive second reading, up to you. Garrett?
On section C, into 24 hours. I wonder if we shouldn't extend that and complaint raised to 48 hours. Because I know Saturday is when a lot of people are working on projects. They don't get it all done. Maybe they don't work on Sundays. And that would put them in violation. And I think 48 hours is still sufficient and give a little more flexibility. So I would propose we change that to 48 hours. Suggestion.
Okay, and we can offer amendments on first reading or second. Lots of times we say goes for second, but I'm taking that as a motion to amend.
Okay, I'll give you a motion to read section C, 48 hours.
Okay,
Mayor, we need a motion to approve before a motion to amend.
well, that's a good point. Sorry, I'm not taking a motion to amend. Trying to talk you into it though. Thank you, Cheryl. Got ahead of myself.
Well, then here, I'll give you a motion. To approve ordinance 2533. With the amendment of section C being changed to 48 hours.
Okay, and is your motion to waive second reading or no? So I'm clear. A motion to approve for first reading with the amendment of section C at 48 hours. And a second from me. Any other thoughts? Any other research? Any other things for us to think about before we come to second reading?
I have some questions about enforceability and process a little bit, that might help me.
Okay.
I think this is great and way more enforceable and clear, and staff did a really good job with the edits. I hope that helps.
I think it will.
My question is, how do we currently, try to enforce situations like agricultural land? It's a little harder to knock on a door. Do we just mail those?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time for any property, we mail it. I mean, Evan will often knock on doors, but most of the time they're not there because they're at work or whatever. So if you can have a conversation with the individual, then yes. But the other thing is our code. I guess the other issue with just knocking on the door is our code puts the onus on the property owner. So if there's a tenant there, we don't cite the tenant, we cite the property owner. And so we need to inform whoever the property owner is. So if it's a field that no one, there's no one living there, yeah, it just goes to the property owner. And then we give them the time, we give them time to correct it and everything. So
Similar to that. I think you mentioned that, agricultural production or natural recreation areas. I would encourage staff to think about like how easy that's going to be to determine. If it's by zoning. If it's, is it city owned or HOA owned? I think that you might have claims of natural growth, recreation and agriculture that maybe we're not thinking about definition wise in here.
Maybe we should add a definition.
Think about it, right?
Yeah.
And part of the, like I'd love to see the public ways that are full of like flowers and pollinating plants and stuff like that, but like even those get above this 12-foot height sometimes.
COVID check, no.
Yes, 12 foot leaf problem.
Some of them are 12 feet, but just saying.
I think we define what weeds are in as well to a degree, but those are just some things that I don't think we see a ton of problems, but something to think about before we get second meeting.
Yeah, I think we can I think we should define that. And then if you want to broaden that, let us know, I guess, or come up with some other language if we want to broaden it beyond. I mean, natural growth recreation areas, we were thinking more public. It could be private HOA, I suppose, that could fall in there, but not a recreation area. I think doesn't necessarily speak to private property. So if there's something on private property that you think there should be an exception for, maybe suggest it.
Yeah, the ones I was thinking about specifically were the private inspiration easements.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. Right, but I wouldn't consider that a recreation area because no one can go on there.
It could have been like recreation area.
I think the suggestion is that you drive around and find this in these couple of weeks and see how it's.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good observation.
Aaron, do you think we need to, the case that you talked about with Firefly Eco Park, and the residents feeling that the long grass, since we took the cows off, have put snakes in their backyard? Do we need something in the ordinance, or have you talked to Rod perhaps about what it'd be like to mow 5 feet of that space next to the fence?
I haven't asked that specific question. I think we do need to be careful in there because there are fireflies.
Yeah, I think we probably want to talk to somebody who knows something about fireflies. So.
Right. And I think the fireflies are probably the most sensitive aspect of that.
Yeah.
Right. So.
And it might be difficult to mow because it's wet,
That too, yeah.
very wet. That's why there's fireflies. Okay.
Stay in Morgan Farm, listen to us. Go along with us. Couple times a year.
Goats are hard to keep in one place.
I think that's. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I actually tried getting a farmer to put cows on and nobody was interested.
On Firefly?
Yeah, before it got like really going.
Oh, good.
One of the, conservation recommendations was to keep cows on there.
You're talking about city center park.
No,
Oh,
talking about Firefly
Firefly.
Park. Yeah, there wasn't any farmers I could find that were willing to put their cows in the middle of a public park surrounded by subdivision.
Cause that's one of the options to help our Utah ladies' tresses continue to flourish, is to graze the city center park.
Just keep the cows there.
Good luck finding some.
But maybe we should have an exception for wetlands and riparian areas. To your point, they're hard to cut. I don't know.
Yeah,
We have a lot of wet areas
yeah,
and some of them are on private property.
but according to our conservation easement on City Center Park, we have to do something like mowing. or
You have to
grading
cut, yeah.
To protect to keep the other grasses down so the ladies' tresses could flourish.
What I'm hearing is we need to open the budget and buy some cows.
Oh. And a lot of fence. And then invite people to walk through the herd because it is a city park. Yeah, I
feel like weeds are getting deep in that.
I'm not so sure
It might have been actually the first time I talked to Casey Snyder.
about grazing.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else before we vote on this for first reading? I'm taking that as a no. So the motion before you is to adopt the first reading, the proposed amended ordinance. And take it up for second reading at our next meeting. You all must think it takes us a long time to do stuff sometimes, huh? We're deliberative. Any opposition to voting? Seeing none, those in favor of the motion to send this to second reading, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Make it so. Thanks. Are we getting close? It's gonna be a short meeting this time. Good for us. Oh, did I jinx it? We did. All right, next item is to consider acceptance of an annexation petition for further consideration for real property on Hall Road. Are you doing this for us?
Yeah, and it does look like the applicant's here as well, if you wanna give them a chance to add anything.
Sure.
So yeah, there was an annexation petition filed by the Hansons for property that they own just south of the city border. They're at about 5300 South Hollow Road. The annexation area is about 29 acres. This area is within the cities, and I'll put it on the map, or I'll put the map up on the next page and give you a little more context where we're talking about. But just to give you some more information, the area is within the city's annexation declaration boundary of the annexation policy plan. And what they are proposing would be contiguous with existing city boundaries. Although I want to note that it's only contiguous by connecting the property via Hollow Road on the right of way. I'll kind of show you how that is. There's a property between the two, but our attorney has reviewed this and he says it is the city council's discretion if you do want to approve this annexation that you could with the contiguity being along the right of way there. So that is an option. But this, I guess to remind you, this is the first step in the process. This isn't if you approve this, you're not approving the annexation. You would just be accepting the petition for further consideration. But anyway, this annexation would also create an unincorporated peninsula. We've gone through this process recently. As you understand, this does require that the county agrees to this as well as the city. So we have been in discussions at a staff level with Cache County on this annexation, and we actually have a meeting set up next week to discuss this further. And ultimately, it's going to have to go to the Cache County Council to decide if they would agree to it. In general, the property is intended to be developed as low density residential, and they've requested rural estate zoning. tonight, I would say that's not really the topic of what zoning should be on there. This does need to go to planning commission for a recommendation on the zoning, and then the zoning on the property would be decided if and when, the annexation is approved. And then this last one, one thing we consider with annexation is utilities and adequacy of utilities. There is some concern about water pressure sufficiency in the area. City engineer Tom noted this, just looking at the water master plan and some of the findings in that was one thing that was noted. So I'll talk about a little later how that could be addressed. So this is the area, and just to orient you, north is to the left, and so it'll probably be easier to tell maybe on the next screen with an aerial which area we're talking about. So that you can see the city boundaries are that black line just to the north of the Linda and Brad Blau Trust property. And that Evico Properties is the last one in Nibley City. So the red area is the annexation area that we're talking about here. And so as you can see, they're proposing to annex a portion. I think this version has a half road for Hollow Road. The county has actually expressed that they would like, or at least a representative of the county has expressed they would like it as the full road be annexed. So we could discuss that as well with the applicant. But either way, the annexation of the road is really what makes it contiguous to the city's boundary. It's just there's kind of a narrow section there that on both sides it would be unincorporated, and on both sides of the road would be unincorporated, and then it would go down to this area to the south.
Can you show us the Hiram city boundary on that map as well?
Yeah, the Hiram city boundary is that black boundary to the south and west.
Yeah.
So you can see it goes into the LeGrand Johnson construction there, right there. So that's all Hiram City. So staff's recommendation is to accept the annexation for further consideration, but with the conditions that the created unincorporated peninsula needs to be approved by Cache County and by the council. That's their process, and then the applicant. We're also suggesting the applicant pay the cost of running the city's water model to evaluate the adequacy of water pressure in the proposed annexation area. We feel this is a good stage to impose this requirement so that the city can look at it further before coming back and recommending this for final approval, just to see what, if any, mitigating measures need to happen with the water system in that area to serve this area with Nibley City water.
Has Tom, our engineer, estimated the cost for that?
If you were here, he could probably tell you. I don't have it off on hand. I don't know if you.
Sorry, I'm not sure either.
Yeah.
He told me about 900 feet tonight.
900 feet.
On your water master plan?
The cost for the water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's too expensive, but yeah, I mean, this is something we would require anyway at subdivision. We just feel like it it would be helpful to do it ahead of the annexation in this case, where we know there's a potential issue. So,
And who's Trevor? Okay, thanks for coming. Appreciate it. Do you have anything to add? Okay. Appreciate it. If there are questions that come up as we talk about it, we'll ask you. All right, is that
that's it.
ready?
That's all I've got, yeah.
To you, so. Like to do.
In your discussions with the county, we rejected the one originally, 1500 West, so. What were your thoughts on this, because it is similar, where it's just a road? And they can see which way.
What we've heard so far, and this is just through email, is they'd be supportive of it if we took the whole road that's adjacent. That's just from the public works director there.
Not the half of the road width, but the full.
The full width of Hollow Road all the way down to the southern edge of this property.
And if you don't mind me asking, Garrett, it's your question, but do you mind me asking to the left of the Blau property? Right, that's the county peninsula that would be formed. No, you're there.
I know, I'm just so that I can point out,
Okay.
or I guess I could point with
Yeah.
this too, this really nifty.
Ouch. You burned a hole in the screen.
Are you talking
The county
here?
probably wants Nibley City to, or is that section of the road to the west side of the Blau property already in Nibley?
You're talking
That
here?
point,
No,
that one-
no, so this is Nibley City's boundary
Right.
here.
Right.
And we actually don't have that right of way for a section in Nibley, at least from what we can tell. So it would bring that section of Hollow Road into the city and then on down to the south.
Okay.
Is what the county wants. And it's actually necessary to at least do the half road. So it would be contiguous,
Right.
but the county wants to give us the full road.
Okay, yeah, it seems like, Garrett, the question on 1500 was, there was a long section of road that was going to be Nibley to the north and Nibley to the south and unincorporated county.
In the middle, yeah, so it's a little different, I guess it's a little different than that, I guess there is a short section where it would be city and county in the middle, and that's right, that little point, it's a few.
I suspect
feet.
the county won't like maintaining that little, but we probably need snow plow, so it's pretty hard to jump a snow plow.
Yeah, our understanding is it's half road.
Yeah, so you're doing half road where they're saying, hey, we want the full road.
The county. Yeah, the county expressed they want the full road for the whole thing.
But is that longer portion of that little tail? Yeah, is that Evico property?
Yeah.
Mhm. But
So
That's just the city right now.
but that's already in the city.
this is, but not the right of way.
Ah, thank you, that helps me a lot. So the right of way. The annexation petition that we're looking at would include annexing the right of way next to the Elko.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, which is unincorporated obviously right now. Right, the county, I think, probably learned from 8th West that it's not good to let cities annex right up to both sides of the road, and then the county gets stuck with the road that's in the middle. they want roads in cities. Makes sense to me. Okay. Thank you.
My only question is that, have you talked to Blouse to see if they'd be interested in the petition annexation?
And why don't you come to the, if you have a chance, if you're willing to answer that question, let's do it at the mic.
Yeah.
We're one of the most popular YouTube channels going, so.
Yes, the applicant has approached Laos and they've got back and just said, interested.
And you're Lance Anderson.
Oh, sorry.
Not the
Lance
applicant, but representing the applicant. Nathan?
Just a question you don't have to answer, but to think about is, if, I know we have a zoning map, but if rural estates is what you actually want to do. Or if some of our other zones like R1, R2, or something you want to consider in this area. I think I would be willing, I don't know about planning zoning, but they'll ultimately make that recommendation, but. Just kind of curious.
No, I think already works and just kind of the shape of the property. It would help with R2A, the average, just because you get maybe some funky lots because of the shape. And we also have a canal, that goes and then drops down in the riverbed. So yes, R2A would actually beneficial. We thought that might help us a little. We're not looking to get like high density, we just want good lots. Get 1 to 2 acre lots. That's what we're trying to do.
So rural estates is 2 acres.
Huh?
Rural estates is 2 acres.
It's 2 acres.
R1 is 1.
Yeah. I think in R1, if the average out would help, I think can't remember what is your frontage on R1. The one thing that's tricky is the RE, the 200 feet of frontage kind of creates it's a little challenging because of the depth of that. What's RE1? I forgot your frontage.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It's requiring sidewalks and.
Yeah, I don't think that's a concern for us. Time goes on the whole. I think, ability to recoup some of that, gives us the 200 feet of frontage is a little challenging on RE. What is R1?
The frontage, I think it's 150, but is it? R1's 200?
It doesn't go down.
Okay. Something else that, because I don't know, we've talked to with a number of people about this property and potential with it that has come up is even if it is zoned RE, the cluster subdivision is an option where you couldn't have more than the number of lots that would be allowed with that acreage, but you could have flexibility with the lot sizes and the so you could have a 4 acre lot and a 1 acre lot and a 2 acre lot.
I haven't done lane cluster. Does that change the frontage?
There is flexibility there's language that gives flexibility with frontage as well in that.
So does allow the cluster.
Yes. My understanding is it does. It doesn't allow an open space subdivision.
Is the cluster condition used or is it just
It's a standard subdivision. It's the planning commission reviews it. It used to be a conditional use. It's no longer a conditional use. Yeah.
Okay. No, I think those are some good options. One thing a little bit and of course the corner, I mean 200 feet of frontage, you get a nice lot if you didn't have 200 feet of because of that. And pushing it to do. But if we could do the cluster, then
So I certainly would never tell the council what to do. Pick your battles carefully. Based on the expectation that might prevail on zoning on this property if we accept the annexation petition and if we annex it, that matches the rest of the folks that live there.
No, I understand that, and that's one thing. One question you mentioned that, Levi, I gotta ask one question is. Do we go and request that the planning and zoning during the petition, if it's accepted, do we go at that time? Can we change it before, I'm just asking.
If you want to change it, you can change it and we can present that to the planning commission, although we've already noticed for that.
For the commission?
It's next
That's
week, but
Okay.
yeah. So that might be a little tricky. We have to talk about that, but yeah.
I think the cluster some options.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we might have to redo the notice and do it at a later time.
If we
If
decide.
if you decide to change
to change it.
Yeah, that would probably be best so that we notice it appropriately.
Yeah, say, if you're gonna apply for something and that'll be, you should definitely be accurate in the notice and plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. Anything else from the council? Is there opposition to voting on accepting this petition for annexation? Opposition to voting.
Make a motion.
I'm just in a hurry. Motion,
Make a motion to accept the annexation petition for further consideration. For these 4 parcels.
motion and a second to accept the annexation.
Clarification, that includes the staff recommendations.
Yes, sorry, with staff recommendations about the water pressure study. And there was 2 in a row, whatever they are, both of them, yeah, both of them.
I'm gonna ask general consent that the motion and second include the staff recommendations. Any objection? Okay, that's the motion then with the staff. Now we have a motion. Any objection to voting? Seeing no objection, those in favor of accepting the annexation petition, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we will do it. Thanks. Appreciate you coming out.
Thank you.
All right, let's do a workshop, discussing utility rates for detached accessory dwelling units. And Justin, are you gonna talk first about that?
Yeah, I'll do my best to cover this. Talon and Amy were really the driving force behind this when they got looking into what was going on with some things and realized that we weren't exactly following our current code when it comes to how much we were charging utility fees for detached accessory dwelling units. And so they came to me and said, hey, well, we're a little unsure on what we should be doing here. And I said, well, what we really need to do is get with the council and get the council's direction and guidance on what they want to happen, and then we'll bring back an amended code that reflected that. So currently, as it sits, the code is very clear that a detached accessory dwelling unit should be charged a base rate for water and a sewer rate. But none of the other utilities are mentioned or discussed. And so they said, well, are we supposed to do all of them, just those 2? So we really are just bringing this for you guys to give us some direction on what you would like us to maybe investigate, questions you may have. You can look at it a couple of different ways. You could look at it as, it's another dwelling unit and should be charged to the base rates. We could look at it as a step trying to be in affordable housing space and not charge them. So really it's the options are kind of open and really whatever you'd like us to do. They had the idea to charge half of a base rate for the accessory dwelling units. And I will willingly admit this really isn't a big financial issue at the moment. I believe we have 8 of these in the city. Now these 8 people might be pretty upset when we change their utility bill to add half base rates and EMS fees as well. But there's only 8 of them. But we feel like we should get a good policy in place on what we would like to see happen in the future as there becomes more and more of these dwelling units constructed within the city. So am I clear so far? Okay, and so
Currently, what are we charging? Nothing?
nothing.
Okay.
And that's, we're not following our own code, and that was on accident of just kind of one of those examples of the water not getting to the end of the road where we had lots of discussion years ago at city council, but it never made it all the way back to the staff that was pushing the button to make the utility bills calculate the way they were supposed to. And so that's my fault. I do apologize about that. But we are where we are today.
Yes. That's my only question. I mean, they are separate units, but do they use all the same? I mean, will they use the same garbage and everything as the original homeowner? Or will they actually need an additional can?
Well,
I don't know, kind of output and use to get, so.
So that one's a little bit different, that they decided not to put a charge for garbage can because the original homeowner could very simply add another can cheaper than you could consider that a new house and order that house its own can. So they left that one off the chart, but did include stormwater fee, 911 communication fee, and EMS fee. So if you were to cut those in half, you would essentially be charging an additional $44 for an external, or excuse me, a detached accessory dwelling unit. Excuse me, to the utility bill of the primary residence. It's not going to have its own account. It's just an additional fee to cover those base fees for those additional. Essentially, it's its own little house, and so.
Yeah,
We do a similar thing where we reduce impact fees for what is considered smaller than what a full-size house would be. So this is in a similar vein of still charging something, but reducing it and not considering it a full-sized house or ERU.
I guess my only problem is, aren't they connected to the existing water and sewer, so any of their uses would be paid for in just use of water?
Correct.
That's why we're talking base. Half of the base with the EDU, not half of the metered charge, just the base rate.
Yeah, meter would be included but then you get into a little bit of a mess where, well, they paid half of the base rate. So do we add, in a normal base rate, there's 5,000 gallons included. So if they're paying for another half, do they get another 2.5? So it does get a little messy.
It is messy.
It's just math though.
Yeah, it's just math. And really the key there, and this is a problem, like I don't mean to make light of it, but the person that creates and creates the account the first time has to do it correctly, because if they don't, it cannot be caught for a long time through normal reporting, trying to figure out audits and things like that. It's kind of hard to find those mistakes when you're dealing with 2,500 homes and more accounts than that. So those little mistakes eventually can add up and cause problems. So we like to keep everything as simple as possible. We like to keep it as basic as possible so that we don't get those kind of errors. But we do have to do that in some cases. For example, some of the townhouse units have 6 units in it, so they pay 6 base rates. So we have to calculate 5,000 times 6 is what they get, and they don't get usage until they go over that. So we're already doing some of that. We try to limit it as much as possible.
What would be easiest for that?
Yeah, I mean, the
Delete it.
easiest thing would be to just not worry about $44 a month and just forget it.
I mean, if the usage increases, the water, sewer.
Water.
Sewer. Just.
Yeah, that's the simplest for sure. Whether that, I mean, as far as work for staff, that's the simplest.
What's the simplest?
Just not charge ADUs any sort of utility fee.
Just delete 8. Doing what we're doing.
Yeah. And again, the reason we brought it to you is because it says very clearly in the code that they will be charged a sewer and a water base rate. But that's the only bills, fees that it mentions.
So that makes sense to me. We thought that was the right thing to do when ADUs came along. I think ADUs are a fantastic idea. We talked about affordable housing. Started when I first heard about ADUs, I said, but isn't that gonna overwhelm our infrastructure? And where they have been more popular in other communities than they have been in Nibley, the answer is no. Is there certainly the second family or individual living in ADUs? Probably not a lot more than a large family in a big house.
I have had a few neighbors ask me about ADUs. I
Good,
think there's people thinking about it,
good.
so.
I mean, we've made it about as easy to put an ADU on your property as I think we could, although this would detract from it a little bit.
A little bit.
To add a utility bill of $44 a month.
I mean, I feel like on the water, usage is already getting paid for anyway. But on the sewer, where it's not per volume like water is. Maybe it's half sewer rate for an ADU. To help with that would make more sense to me than the water or both, but. I don't know. It's a workshop, I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah, maybe we think about why do we have base rates in the first place, right? It's like an offset that's charged for the service being available. To have pipe with pressurized clean water, that's the base rate for water, plus a small amount of water. The base rate for the so that base rate needs to not only cover what's being used, but also the infrastructure behind that to drill wells and put water into tanks and maintain pipes to get it to the house. Same on sewer, it's to pay the Logan City metered rate that goes through our lift station. Because we don't meter sewage, but Logan City does. And to have the service available.
The only struggle I'm having in my mind is they're connected to the existing water and sewer. So it's not technically a new connection. And we're using the already in place water and sewer lines. From the home, from the current home. That's where I'm having, I guess, the issue of.
Yeah, fair enough.
Charging anything for that.
This is a quick side note. Internal ADUs. It's pretty clear in state code that we're not allowed to charge impact fees. We're not allowed to charge more for internal. But detached seems to be a little more open.
I would like it if that became more popular than
So the 8 that we have, are they internal or external?
External. Yeah, we have no idea.
We have more internal for sure, yeah.
Okay, no.
Yeah, we only know the ones that we permitted.
That's good work.
Yeah.
Honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think Garrett thinking makes sense. It's like it's already connected to the home. There's not extra infrastructure being put in place. Other than just like helping put money back into the pot to help pay for the services that we provide, so. I'm kind of be leaning toward they don't charge it, but.
Yeah. I will just throw out there again, it really is such a minor issue right now. We're really talking about in the future, if this gets big.
Right.
Like, what impact would it have?
And it's gonna be hard to, in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
To start charging people.
So get it right.
They haven't been charged.
So all just thoughts. We're happy to take whatever direction you guys would like us to go. We can do research, we can look up more. I know town's done quite a bit. Whatever you guys would like us to do to help you make the decision, we're happy and willing to do.
Walk me through again, you kind of started on it. We currently, for instance, with townhomes or even condominiums, take all as individual units, times that by base, and that's how many they get. And that's how they're built
Correct.
and metered.
Yeah, well, so the issue was when townhouse, this is a never ending circle that I have been banging my head against the wall for the last 15 years is how to properly meter a multifamily complex. Is it 1 meter? And do you charge 2-inch impact fee, or do you charge an impact fee for each door? Like it's one of those things that just it's continually debated and continually wrapping around, and then you can splice it up a million different ways. There is no correct answer. We need to just pick one and stick with it. Now, current staff, I've had this discussion like again, for years now, and the current staff, we do everything we can now to supply an individual meter for every single unit. For the biggest reason is the ability to be able to shut off for non-payment. In some of those townhouses, we have no ability to shut off if somebody refuses to pay for the service. We've got no way to shut them off. We can't shut off all 6 of them. And so we've gone to every unit has a meter. Now there are some downsides to that. There really are, but we've decided that we're sticking with that. And right now that's what we do. Each townhouse gets its own 1-inch meter, is charged a reduced impact fee of 72%. I can't remember what the reduced impact fee is, but then they pay a full base rate for each unit and $15.50. And that bill typically goes to the owner of the townhouse, and the usage, if they have more than 1 meter, or excuse me, more than 1 unit on a single meter, the usage gets billed to the HOA. Because that introduces a whole new mess of, is it the HOA, is it the property owner? So really, we're trying to just nail down and get it set on what it is, so at least we know what it is. We don't have to make all these billing changes. We don't want 10 years to be like, well, that guy got off for half price for the last 10 years. It gets messy fast. I'm kind of rambling now, sorry.
Can I maybe bring up another issue? I think one issue with ADUs is although I think the purpose of ADUs is to address affordable housing, I think a lot of them are just guest houses. A lot of times people build them and they're not even occupied very often. We haven't had we have this provision in the code that allows a rebate for an ADU if they rent it at a certain rate below, that it's affordable. No one has taken us up on that. I'm kind of surprised.
That's a rebate of impact.
Impact fees, yeah. But I think just anecdotally, I'm hearing some of them are just, they built them and they're just a guest house, basically.
Didn't we waive impact fees?
It's like over a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
If they were affordable housing.
And no one has approached us about that. We've made it clear when they've been permitted and everything, but anyway, just something else to think about with ADUs is if someone builds it, doesn't necessarily mean they're renting it out and someone's living there. Right. And they're typically on the same meter. So you're going to pay them 2 base rates just because they have something sitting there. I don't know.
Feedback is.
Yeah.
Oh. can convert them slot. So I think.
Yeah, I'm headed that way.
Yeah, we'll bring back, what I'm hearing is we'll bring back proposed language to make it clear. There will be no utility fees for and detached. You.
Thanks.
Yeah.
No utility at all. In-house.
We don't have any of these, but I assume that's different if they have their own meter. Cause or not.
That's a great question. None of them have, I think it.
I think it's, if they have their own meter, they have to have.
An account, they have to pay.
They have a base rate.
The whole thing.
Right. That would make sense.
You mentioned that.
A lot of holes in your main line. Each service line from the main to the house is a potential leak. And most of our water leaks and issues that we deal with are connections, that piece. Like I was out last week with the streets department, we patched one of them we had. So that is the biggest. You have to, they can only be so close because then the integrity of the pipe, if you put more holes in. So it's just more, I mean, it's way easier to take care of 1 2-inch line than it is 6 1-inch lines in the long run. But again, you're getting 1 2-inch impact fee or 6 1-inch impact fees. Is go in circles and circles and circles.
Your area.
Yeah, and so again, that's what we've decided to go because we feel like that's the lesser of most evils at the moment. But the longer we can stick to that, the better for the future.
Yeah, especially the bigger cities that have.
Oh, yeah.
A little further down the line.
I've had discussions with cities, I've had discussions with HOAs, I've had discussions with developers.
This is
I've
on
had discussions-
multifamily.
Yeah, on how to meter multifamily and what's the right way to do it. Just everybody's got their own opinion. HOA people. Well, I shouldn't even go into what, but yeah, lots of different opinions. One of the problems that I thought was interesting that was brought to us is that if you, sorry, you're good talking Mike. If you do build the HOA fees are included in loan qualification. And so if you have those utilities in the HOA fee, there was eliminating some people's ability to even get a loan because of just putting them over the whatever calculations they do for income and HOA fees and all those kinds of things. I thought that was probably the only really good argument that was made or brought up through all that. Otherwise, it was just, wow, it's a lot easier for me if you do this. Wow, it's easier for me if you do this. And it honestly have been long enough they all blur together. I can't even remember who was what. But I just was so frustrated and just sat down with our team. And I said, all right, here's all the things that could go, here's the pros, here's the cons, and we decided to go with 1-inch meters wherever possible.
How many do we have before we started? Basically, a couple dozen.
That's it?
Yeah.
Thought we had all.
Well, you had the
easy thing is see,
yeah.
Which is the technology that we are restricted to, and the means and resources we have.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's just the scary. So by building it, you plan to rent it, it is in my interest to do what I want as a property owner. But I don't know where we enforce things, so do we force people to do it?
That's actually a question I should investigate. I think we are in our code, don't we talk about it has to be connected to the main house and not?
We allow the option now. We used to say it has to be, but now we allow the option. They have to pay 100% of the impact fee instead of 50%.
Okay, thank you.
With a separate meter.
Yeah, sorry, for the separate meter, they would have to pay the full impact fee instead of half.
Standard done to man, separate meters and it's fine.
No, but we incentivize it through that.
But we do.
Condos are harder. You can't have a 1 inch meter for each condo because they're stacked. Yeah, so there's a number, I can't remember where we draw the line and say, okay, we now have to go to a 2 inch meter. Here's where it gets really messy, because we still charge an impact fee per door now, not meter. So they'll still pay an impact fee. It is reduced, not a full home size impact fee, if you will. But they still each pay the impact fees, and then we have to figure out the metering and who gets billed, who pays for all those bills. Cause this is way nicer for us just to say one bill. I mean, think of Ridgeline, if we could send one bill to the HOA and it's the HOA's problem to collect. I mean, that would be fantastic.
And if they don't, we'll shut off the whole.
Exactly. Yeah, so there, again, I mean, you go down rabbit hole after rabbit hole, there's not a perfect answer, there's not a great solution. We have a policy in place that we're following now. If you'd like us to hash that out more, we're happy to do that, but we feel pretty good about it. We're just looking in this case, talking about these detached things because we noticed in the code.
So, I mean, I think it's good for us to think about where we are on condos and townhomes and multifamily attached housing. But an ADU is one lot, right? It's two dwelling units on one lot. It's one owner. Might be three. Yeah, I mean, you could let your kids live there for no charge. You could do whatever you want, but it's a single lot. It's two dwelling units on one lot. So I think that helps me say, well, yeah, there's the stuff we do on townhomes and everything else, and I know how complicated that is, but we're still talking about one person owns that lot. And it doesn't have to be occupied anymore. Got rid of that too. So I'm saying, yeah, I'm kind of thinking we just don't charge the utility fee for a detached ADU. That's where I am right now. I'll think about it some more though.
Okay.
But and you should hear it from other council members.
Yeah, well, right now, that's what I'm planning on doing, is bringing back an ordinance with that direction. So between now and when that gets here, if you don't feel that way and want to talk more, please come talk to us and let's talk about it. And obviously, you can do whatever you want with it once we bring it to you, but I will bring that back to you.
Greg, will you answer a question for us?
Sure.
If you don't have to. What does the real estate community see in terms of detached ADUs? Are they, and you can come up to, if you don't mind, you don't have to answer it all, but you're our real estate expert here tonight.
As far as whether or not we like them, we like them. They're an option for a property owner. It is, that owner has chosen to do an external ADU with their property, and so we would support them. As you've seen in Nibley, I think probably one of the things that you're going to notice is the detached ADUs may be coming in the future at a larger rate, but your internal ADUs are what's really gonna happen.
Okay. Yeah, that's the question I was getting at. What do you all see?
Internal,
not so many external. So 8 in Nibley doesn't seem like very many, and it's not, but you're saying that won't change real fast.
external, probably not internal. I think you might be very surprised at how many you actually have
Right.
just aren't on.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, we're a college town. I hate to say this term, but it's stack and pack and rack them to get kids in. And so
that's what it is for some natural born kids.
True. But with externals, I don't see a rush coming on internals. I think it's already here, and where real estate or or association would come in is we like the idea of the internals and externals. Because for, particularly for aging owners, the internal external ADU allows for an option for them to keep in their unit for longer, with having someone maybe able to help them on site.
So I'm gonna live in the goat pasture eventually.
As far as the external ADU, the association really would support.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Greg. What's that?
I'm just curious what Nick.
Sure, Nick. Welcome to the club, figuring out how to pay for stuff.
You're asking about my opinion on the rate?
Yeah, whether we should, this very topic, should we be charging a utility fee for external ADUs?
I like your comment, it's on one site, one unit.
One lot.
If the ADU is connected to the main, it's not a separate meter. I don't think the meter would complicate it, frankly. And to Levi's comment about is the nature of allowing an ADU in Nibley is to open up another opportunity for some version of affordable housing, right? Maybe that's just another olive branch from the city. Even though it's $45, right, Justin?
Times 8.
Yeah.
So far. So far.
But logistically for staff, it's easier.
Okay.
Based on just what we talked about. Makes sense to just.
Yeah. Thanks, Nick. Feel good about that, Justin?
Yeah, I got
We'll change your mind by the time you write.
Yeah, please don't.
All right, let's call that workshop complete and finish up with council and staff reports. Or we've not done with it, it's all right. I didn't beat the rules. Okay. So then let's move to the last item on the agenda, council and staff reports. Garrett. Okay, we're gonna start with Nathan. Yeah, it's really Nathan.
I have been fielding and getting more engaged as usual with the 1200 West. And I'm finding that many of the recent conversations have been over frustrations with construction and the way the bike lane has been used both by city staff, construction people, and randos. Everything else is fine. They're just frustrated to see a bike lane not being protected as a bike lane. And so something as we get closer to kind of and continuing to make decisions on there is, what is needed for us to be able to plow it, do our job, service it. And then can we do other things that will even more so eliminate vehicle travel, as in cars?
Yeah, and we talked about some of those things.
Yeah.
But I think it's positive that people want to protect the protected bikeway. Yeah, let's look at that as policy.
And a lot of good suggestions that I've got from citizens that I can forward to that.
Please.
What, are we close to being done? I know Tom's not here. Are we close to having all that construction done?
It's pretty close.
Yeah.
I think Tom said 2 weeks today when it's. Maybe it'd be 2 more weeks the next meeting.
Construction management.
I think we specifically asked for in December.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Correct.
I think that's a good time to address those issues as well. So I'll forward stuff to staff and even other council members. I think many do. That's it.
Thank you, Nathan. Aaron?
I've driven over the lower Mountville Islands multiple times. They're not, they don't bump your car that much. I like them.
So they're more pleasant.
Yeah. Yeah. I had one person ask me at the corner of Nibley Parkway and 12th West. It probably is the whole way down 12th West. The crosswalk has some green painting on the pedestrian crosswalk areas. What is the green delineates?
Bikes.
For bikes, okay.
This is horribly ugly green.
It's like lime green.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's what it's supposed to be. That's standard.
Phase one was the good standard.
Really?
Whatever they put in phase two. I think, maybe,
It is, yeah, somebody asked me. I said, I don't.
yeah, it is.
It's a path originally.
I wish, if nothing else, it was. But, phase two got a little winding.
Second question I have, I was reading my utility bill this past month. And the message, maybe Cheryl might be able to answer this best, the message in the utility bill paragraph. I can't even remember what it says, and I should have brought it, but it said something I didn't understand about billing. Do we have a copy of what the message said?
I can get that to you. I don't know what they think. I will.
I didn't understand what it was referring to.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, I should have brought it up. I didn't think about it until I got here. And the last thing, we've got a cute little library over there. And it was sanded and assembled and painted by the 8 to 12-year-olds of the Nibley 17th Ward. And they did a great job. Might need a little touch-up paint, so I brought the can of paint. And the middle shelf needs to be put in, but otherwise, I think we could put it on a stand and pop it in a park. So, yeah,
Do you have one you wanted to go on?
no, I mean, my thoughts were that some of our bigger parks like Heritage or Ander, start there.
Well, now, since you mentioned, I'm surprised driving around how many I've seen. There's a fair amount around, more than I thought. Yeah. No. Anyway, yeah, I will, get it up.
Somewhere nearish, playground is probably good, that's where the most small kids are probably gonna be.
Yeah.
And small kids would love to take those out of them, so.
I think I'm looking at my utility bill. Well, I'm looking at my online version of it.
Okay, it has a message.
I don't know if it's the same as yours. You want me to sort of read
Yeah.
stuff?
Just that little paragraph in the middle, that message.
Happy Thanksgiving. We're thankful for each of you that all you do to serve our community. Wanted to let you know that we recalculated
That's it.
equal pay this month.
Some residents do an equal payment amount on their bill, and it's recalculated annually because if there's a deficit in the amount they paid in the past year or too much, those have to be recalculated. But so it's a way to have a consistent utility bill each and every, but it has to be recalculated.
I see, great, thank you.
And the other thing, so the new amount will be reflected on this bill. Probably, yeah, letting people know that they feel very be equal pay as this.
I see, okay.
Which for the record, we don't really love. We don't really push or advertise to people anymore that that's an option, we'll do it. But it has caused some problems. No, I mean, yeah, so you can do auto pay, which is just, whatever your bill is, we take it out of your account, your credit card every month. And you have,
Or your checking account.
yeah, however you've set it up to be paid, that's auto pay. And then we have the equal pay, which is just the calculated number. You pay that number every single month, but your bill is properly tracked and you're either ahead a little or you're behind a little. And at some point we have to rebalance, and that's what it
Okay, you
is.
got credit.
Yeah, and like I said, we don't love it anymore. It's caused some issues, so those that were on it, we're not gonna kick them off. Well, we don't. Yeah, we're not sending it up in banners that it's an option for me.
So it's the water bill that
Yeah.
fluctuates through the year, right? It's not like a bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, most big utilities have an equal pay option.
Just for budgeting.
Yeah, makes it easy to budget people.
Ready to go? Yeah. Yeah, thanks for going on some bills, right?
So about that. I haven't yet, I tried to drive it last week with here. I wanted to see how the pump outs, the changes, how they were, but there's still cones and everything around them. And I'm almost gonna take it out, and ran the stop sign. I'm not sure they're looking very hard, or maybe it's a construction zone.
Yeah, real quick on that, we've noticed that problem, similar to the 10th West problem, like people, we changed the direction of the stop sign. We've put up EMS signs. I've asked Tom to see if he can get a flashing stop sign. We might put more stop sign, but
Which,
at Nibley Park Avenue and 12 West. So
They're just
Nibley Park Avenue used to be the through.
Mhm.
Now 12th is the through. So it's a change in traffic pattern and people are struggling.
Oh, where they go? You can't keep. Stop. I was coming in, they're gonna turn. Just caught them at the side of my line and they came flying near that fence. They were definitely speeding. They came flying. Luckily I saw them not stop. So I swerved and stopped and they came fast and it would have taken me out.
Yeah.
The heck?
So Tom is working. We would like to have something. Yeah, I'm seeing if we can get those, how fast we can get them here.
the flashing sign on one side, not the other.
Oh, really?
So when we changed the
Yeah.
stop sign there, on the one flashing one, because we put it there, but we didn't have one for the other side.
Oh, really?
And part of that, I guess is, we had a resident, we saw an email, like yesterday. About a couple of incidents, I guess, for car and I centered and apparently they don't know how to read construction signs or something. So, I don't know if there's a way to make some of them more clear or it's just a beast of people just don't pay attention. I think we should.
I spoke with Tom about it. Actually got a hold of the resident to say, if you know who suffered damage to their cars, they can turn in a claim. The person that wrote us did not know who suffered damage to their cars.
And I had a resident who called me on Monday about 12 West. Lives on Nibley, 12 West and
Nibley Parkway.
Parkway.
Naked.
Park Avenue,
Park Avenue, I think,
not to be confused with Nibley Parkway.
Nibley Park Avenue.
Nibley Park Avenue.
And he commented how much he likes. We call it the wall, but that barrier, he said he has noticed living there, how much that has slowed traffic down. He doesn't really care about the bull mounts, he's like, hey, love him, hate him, doesn't, he's kind of neutral on that, but he loves the wall, he says. The narrowing of that, he has noticed a major slowdown for traffic pattern, so he just said, whatever you do, please.
You talking about the Jersey barrier, right?
Yes, he called it the wall, that's not something to. And he just said, whatever you do, please don't get rid of those. So. I just thought I'd bring back a positive. You know, that's all I got.
Thanks, Jared.
Actually, well, that's okay. Stoop's going to prepare soup today. So we're gonna-
Keep off of
That was way fun. Thank you for inviting us and it was fun to mix and mingle and I got my stuff set up chat so that we'll get called if we ever get snow.
Yeah, thank you for coming. It's fantastic for the staff to see you guys in that sort of.
So bring it soup next time.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to be left out and not comment on 12 West, so yeah. I got a high five from the Ira mayor for the speed limit being raised to 35.
Happy of that?
Yeah. Cause it's been 25 for a long time. And so Stephanie's very happy about it being 35. I explained. It'll be really interesting to see what speed data goes to with 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. So,
Yeah,
and I said, by the way, we're gonna use your side of 12 West, south of 3200 South as a control experiment.
Just buys the experiment.
I didn't tell every driver,
You just did.
because they're all watching YouTube. I didn't say it was a double, I said it was a controlled experiment. Okay, I do have a couple things. Maybe you received, messages about trail at about 3,400 south. A large number of citizens signed a petition. For me, there was a lot to unpack and all that, so I didn't write a response. Instead, I offered a meeting. And I just received, from Mr. Jackson, so I think he's the guy I'm talking to. Appreciation for a chance to meet on that, and I invite as many of you as you want on 17th of November, 6:30 or later, to meet with residents to chat. And if it's a quorum, we have to look at a meeting. But I think this would be a good one for us to get together on instead of deal with it.
So,
You must have got it.
There's a proposed trail in the master plan. They don't want.
Right.
I do want to mention on that note that they have submitted an application and it will be, we will go through the formal process.
Oh, to modify the trail master plan?
Yeah.
And they.
Yeah, so
and they
it's gonna go to planning commission in December.
Okay,
You can, I mean,
thank you.
you can have the meeting, but it would probably get to city council in January because we can't get it till December 11th
Okay,
for planning commission and then.
so I'm gonna change my request then based on that. If that proposal goes to the city council after it goes to the planning commission appropriately, I don't want to have a city council meeting on the 17th. So that doesn't mean that two of you and maybe a newly elected, because you don't count yet. Well, you count a lot in a minute. But maybe two of you would like to join me in that meeting on 17th at 6:30 or later. I have a perfect time. Nathan,
Have we confirmed our canvassing meeting yet?
On Monday at 12?
This Monday?
No, the 17th, sorry, Monday the
So
17th.
you already have a meeting scheduled. Well, add that, people.
no, I don't want to have a city council meeting on this before it goes through proper channels with a proper, if they've made an application. I believe we should go through the process appropriately and not circumvent the planning commission, for example. I mean, the planning commission chair is sitting there listening, so. Yes, Cheryl.
May I suggest you subject Mr. Spalding?
Yeah, thank you. I was going to, right. Yeah. So. That might be interesting. Number two, opportunity for more meetings. The next fire district board meeting is going to, just before the board meeting, there's going to be, they're calling it, we decided to call it, I didn't suggest it. Fire District 101. A chance for elected officials to learn what the crap is going on with the Cache County Fire District. I'm using a nice word. Not that it's a bad idea, I'm not biasing anyone for it or against it, I'm on the board, I'm a member of the steering committee on the board, but. If you're in, it leads to a very likely change in terms of fire